Are you tired of constantly chasing happiness, only to find that it slips further away every time you get close? What if I told you that everything you've been taught about happiness is a lie? In this video, we'll dive deep into why your obsession with being happy is actually sabotaging your peace of mind. This isn't about positive thinking or pretending everything is okay. It's about understanding why the more you chase, the more it evades you, and how you can break free from that cycle. We'll explore powerful psychological insights from Jung that will show you how to stop running after happiness and start living a life of true contentment. If you've ever felt stuck, like you're always striving for the next thing, but never feeling fulfilled, this video will open your eyes. You're about to discover how to stop the endless chase and finally find peace within yourself. Stick with me until the end, and let's shift your perspective for good. It's strange, isn't it? How happiness became a product, something to be bought, achieved, flaunted. A dream sold to us in commercials, self-help books, and fake Instagram smiles. Somewhere along the way, we stopped asking why we wanted to be happy and just assumed we had to be. But if you look closer, behind the curated photos and motivational quotes, there's something missing. Not sadness. No, that would be too obvious. What's missing is depth. This obsession with being happy all the time is a new religion. The gospel is, if you're not happy, something's wrong with you. But that's a lie. Real life, messy, unpredictable, painfully beautiful, isn't made of permanent highs. Jung understood this. He knew the soul doesn't crave comfort, it craves wholeness. And wholeness, that includes discomfort. Paradoxically, the pressure to be happy all the time has made us more anxious than ever. Think about how often people chase careers they hate just because they think it'll make them happy. Or relationships that look good on paper but feel dead on the inside. It's like chasing a mirage. You run, you sweat, you sacrifice, and when you get there, it vanishes. The problem isn't that happiness doesn't exist. The problem is that we've defined it in a way that excludes most of reality. There's this common story: get the job, find the partner, buy the house, and then you'll be happy. But nobody tells you what happens when you get all that and still feel hollow. That's where the existential crisis creeps in. And it's not a sign you failed, it's a sign you've been lied to. Maybe the question isn't how can I be happy, but whose definition of happiness am I living by? You can see it in the eyes of people at the top. Celebrities, millionaires, influencers. So many of them confess, once they're too exhausted to pretend, that they're still searching for something. And often they can't even name it. That's what happens when your inner compass is guided by outer metrics. Jung would say, the psyche isn't built for constant joy. It's built for transformation. So the next time someone tells you to just be happy, pause. Ask yourself, are they selling you something? Are you selling yourself something? Because once you spot the illusion, you can't unsee it. And that's where the real unraveling begins. You get the job. You feel the thrill. But then what? A week goes by, maybe two, and suddenly you're already eyeing the next promotion, the next escape, the next hit. This isn't failure, it's design. Modern life is structured like a treadmill, always moving, never arriving. You run faster, sweat more, and yet you're in the same place psychologically. The feeling of enough stays just out of reach, like a ghost you almost touched. There's a hidden panic in that constant chase. People call it ambition, but Jung would call it a symptom. A soul that's disconnected from itself starts measuring aliveness through external upgrades. New car, new partner, new diet. But the thrill fades, and you're left wondering why satisfaction never sticks. The truth? You're not chasing happiness, you're running from emptiness. And that emptiness always catches up. Let's be real for a moment. How many times have you achieved something you once desperately wanted, only to feel hollow again within days? That's not a lack of gratitude. That's the hedonic treadmill at work. It's a psychological trap where dopamine spikes become the drug, not the fulfillment. You don't need to be more ambitious. You need to step off the loop and ask, why do I never feel full? That question alone can break the spell. Most people don't even know they're trapped. They'll post about the grind and call it hustle. But beneath that is often a quiet fear. If I stop chasing, will I still matter? This isn't just psychological, it's existential. Your self-worth is outsourced to outcomes, milestones, likes, and paychecks. And the system loves it. It profits off your emptiness. It sells you a finish line that moves every time you get close. Here's the twist. The treadmill doesn't stop when you win. It speeds up. You finally get what you want. And now you're terrified of losing it. That anxiety? It's a side effect of chasing happiness instead of building meaning. A meaningful life doesn't race. It roots. And meaning isn't found at the top of the ladder. It's buried in the soil under your feet, in the life you're already standing on, but never really in. So maybe the real question isn't, how do I get more? But rather, why do I think I need more to be okay? That shift alone is disruptive. It cracks the surface. It makes you notice how fragile the chase really is. And once you start noticing, other cracks begin to show, especially in the image you've built for the world to see. Smile. Be nice. Say you're doing great, even when you're not. Society rewards the mask, not the truth. Jung called it the persona, the version of yourself you present to be accepted, admired, liked. But here's the danger. The more polished the mask, the more lost the real self becomes. And when your happiness is tied to a performance, how can it ever be real? Think about how often you say, "I'm fine," when you're actually drowning. Why do you do that? Because you've been trained to equate struggle with weakness. We're raised to believe that visible suffering makes people uncomfortable, so we bury it. But Jung warned, if you spend your life curating a persona of constant joy, you're not achieving happiness. You're amputating parts of your soul to fit a social costume. Scroll through Instagram. Look at the smiles, the perfect vacations, the constant productivity. It's a stage brilliantly lit, but emotionally hollow. And the more you participate in it, the more you start believing that you're the broken one for not feeling as happy as you look. But what if the truth is the opposite? What if your sadness isn't a flaw, but a whisper from your deeper self begging you to stop pretending? Here's where it gets darker. The persona isn't just a lie to others, it becomes a lie to yourself. You start forgetting who you really are beneath all that forced positivity. You laugh at jokes that hurt you. You agree to plans that exhaust you. You chase dreams that aren't even yours. And one day, you look in the mirror and realize you don't recognize the person staring back. Jung believed that the persona was necessary, but dangerous when mistaken for the whole self. It's not evil. It's just incomplete. It serves a purpose, to help you navigate society. But when your entire sense of self-worth comes from how well you play happy, you're spiritually sedated. The price of fitting in is often the death of authenticity. And sooner or later, the buried parts of you will demand to be seen. So ask yourself, whose happiness are you chasing? Is it yours? Or is it a performance script handed to you by culture, family, algorithms? Real joy is never loud. It doesn't need applause. If your happiness feels fragile, maybe it's because it was built for the world, not for your soul. Maybe it's time to take the mask off and see what's still breathing underneath. You say you want happiness, but you've built your life to avoid yourself. Every painful memory, every shameful thought, every flicker of rage, pushed into the basement of your mind, locked behind smiles and distractions. But Carl Jung warned, what you suppress doesn't disappear, it waits. The shadow isn't your enemy. It's your truth. And the more you run from it, the louder it whispers. You tell yourself you're fine, but your body betrays you. Tight chest, sleepless nights, sudden waves of anger. These aren't random. They're signals. Psychological flares from a part of you you've refused to face. Your sadness isn't a malfunction. It's intelligence. It's trying to tell you that something is missing, that the fake life you're maintaining isn't enough for your soul. We live in a culture obsessed with positivity. Be grateful. Look on the bright side. But there's a dark cost to that light. When pain is treated as failure, you begin to fear it. You push it deeper, and it grows teeth. The shadow becomes toxic not because it exists, but because it's ignored. You can't amputate your darkness and expect to be whole. Have you ever exploded over something small? Or felt irrational fear in a moment that didn't warrant it? That's your shadow hijacking the wheel. Repressed emotion always finds a way out, often sideways. Jung believed that confronting the shadow wasn't just therapeutic, it was necessary for maturity. Until you meet your inner demons, they'll keep showing up in disguise, as bad habits, toxic relationships, quiet self-hate. The irony? What you're most ashamed of might be the key to your vitality. Your anger might be pointing to a boundary you keep letting others violate. Your sadness might be exposing a lie you've been living. Your envy could be showing you what you truly desire, but don't let yourself want. These aren't symptoms to fix. They're messengers to decode. But only if you're willing to listen without judgment. So here's the question. What have you buried that's still alive inside you? Happiness built on denial is a house on fire. You just haven't seen the flames yet. Jung didn't promise peace through suppression. He promised wholeness through confrontation. When you stop fearing the dark, you start reclaiming your power. And maybe, just maybe, That's when the real happiness begins. Not light without darkness, but light that includes it. There's a quiet violence in the phrase, just be positive. It sounds harmless, encouraging even. But beneath that smile lies a demand. Don't feel too much, don't disturb the room with your pain. Carl Jung knew this wasn't healing. It was repression. When positivity becomes a rule instead of a choice, it creates shame around anything human, raw, or real. And shame kills authenticity. Look closely. Have you ever judged yourself for being sad, anxious, or angry? Not just felt the emotion, but felt bad for feeling it? That second layer, that internal rejection, is where the real damage begins. It teaches you that some parts of your inner world are unacceptable. And so, like a child trying to win approval, you smile through the storm. But deep down, you're drowning. Think happy thoughts. That's what we're told when life breaks apart. But what if your despair isn't something to fix, but to understand? Jung believed the unconscious becomes dangerous only when ignored. The more you force yourself to be okay, the more the denied parts of you grow hostile. They find other ways to speak, through chronic anxiety, self-sabotage, or the numbness you can't explain. And here's the trap. When positivity becomes compulsory, suffering becomes secret. You perform wellness, but inside you're fragmented. And then you wonder why no amount of journaling or gratitude or motivational content seems to work. Because healing doesn't come from painting over cracks. It comes from entering them with courage. And you can't do that while pretending you're already fine. True self-growth is brutal at times. It means holding space for grief without rushing to reframe it. It means letting anger speak before morality shuts it down. It means sitting in your anxiety without trying to breathe it away too quickly. These moments aren't signs of failure. They're invitations to depth. But most people miss them, blinded by the cult of optimism. Are you? The obsession with high vibrations and manifesting joy might feel empowering, but ask yourself, who are you trying to convince? Real transformation is earthy, slow, and sometimes ugly. But it's real. And Jung's message remains, don't chase light by running from the dark. The truth is this, only when you stop forcing happiness does peace finally have a place to land. We've been conditioned to live in a state of almost. Almost happy, almost fulfilled, almost there. But here's the paradox. When you place peace in the future, you simultaneously declare that you don't have it now. And your unconscious listens. It starts to believe that serenity is always just one achievement away. This is the foundation of chronic dissatisfaction. You're never now, you're always next. Think about it. How many times have you told yourself, I'll be happy when you get the job, when you find the right person, when you fix everything broken inside you. But each time you arrive at the next milestone, the finish line moves again. And so you stay trapped in psychological limbo, forever preparing for a life that never quite begins. Jung warned that this compulsive forward focus is a symptom of disconnection from the self. It's a subtle form of spiritual exile. You avoid the discomfort of the present by idealizing the future. But the more you escape now, the more you hollow out your ability to be. And here's the tragedy. You might reach every goal and still feel empty. Because fulfillment was never there. It was here. Modern life thrives on this illusion. It monetizes your anticipation, your impatience, your discontent. The next dopamine hit, the next glow-up, the next version of you. But what if this constant striving is not ambition, but avoidance? What if the reason you're so desperate to get there is because you're afraid to face what's here? The silence, the loneliness, the unresolved wounds. This isn't about giving up on your goals. It's about refusing to postpone your existence. Because the cost of living in the future is that you lose intimacy with the present and with yourself. When you treat peace like a destination, you live like a tourist in your own life. Always passing through, never arriving, and worst of all, never feeling truly alive. So here's the question that should haunt you. What if nothing out there will ever complete you? What if the reason you're tired, anxious, and unfulfilled is because you've outsourced your peace to a fantasy timeline? Jung didn't offer shortcuts, but he did offer truth. Stop chasing mirages. Sit with yourself. Reclaim the moment. Because this, right now, is all you ever really have. This isn't just a psychological issue. It's a spiritual one. The reason your search for happiness feels hollow is because you're starving in a much deeper way. Jung believed that beneath our addictions, anxieties, and obsessions lies a spiritual hunger, a craving for meaning, for connection, for something eternal. But instead of feeding the soul, we feed the ego. And then we wonder why we still feel empty. You scroll. You shop. You hustle. You meditate just enough to feel productive. But ask yourself this: when was the last time you felt touched by something deeper than pleasure? Something sacred? Most people confuse comfort for peace. But they're not the same. Comfort numbs. Peace transforms. Jung warned that without connection to the self, the deeper essence, we become spiritually dehydrated. We try to fill the void with happiness quotes and gratitude journals. But the soul doesn't want glitter, it wants truth. And truth often hurts. That's why the deeper work is avoided. Spiritual hunger demands silence, not noise. Depth, not distraction. But the modern world teaches you to stay shallow, to keep consuming, to keep pretending that if you just upgrade your morning routine, your existential ache will disappear. Jung said the great danger of modern life is that we've replaced religion with entertainment. Instead of seeking wholeness, we seek stimulation, and then label it joy. But underneath all this, your psyche knows better. It knows when you've sold out the sacred for the superficial. It knows when your rituals are empty, your smiles are masks, your goals are distractions. And it begins to rebel through depression, anxiety, disconnection. This isn't about converting to anything. Jung wasn't preaching dogma. He was pointing to the inner sacred, a connection to yourself, to your unconscious, to something greater than the ego. When that connection is broken, you wander life like a tourist in a museum of pleasures, touching everything, but belonging nowhere. And no amount of happiness hacks will fix that. Because it's not your joy that's broken. It's your foundation. So ask yourself, not what makes you happy, but what gives your life depth. What shakes your soul? What pierces your illusions? If you never confront that hunger, you'll keep mistaking spiritual thirst for emotional dissatisfaction. And you'll keep chasing things that cannot fill you. Jung's message wasn't just psychological, it was existential. To be whole, you must return to the center, to the self, to what you truly are beneath the noise. You don't need to feel good all the time. You need to feel real. The obsession with being happy is what's making you miserable. Carl Jung didn't tell people to seek joy. He told them to seek wholeness. Because when you're whole, happiness stops being something you chase. It becomes something that flows naturally, unpredictably like weather. And sometimes, peace means sitting in the storm without trying to run from it. What if your sadness had wisdom in it? What if your rage had something sacred to teach you? Most people try to amputate the parts of themselves they don't like. But Jung taught the opposite. Integration is the path to healing. That means holding the light and the dark together, not choosing one over the other. Because the more you split yourself in half, the more fake your life feels, and the more happiness slips through your fingers. We've been trained to think that negative emotions are mistakes. But what if they're messages? Depression might be the soul asking you to slow down. Anxiety might be your intuition screaming for a new direction. Even envy can reveal hidden desires you've been afraid to claim. Wholeness doesn't mean comfort. It means confrontation, not with the world, but with the parts of yourself you've ignored, rejected, or feared. There's a quiet power in accepting what is, not just what you wish were true. People think wholeness is about being balanced or zen. It's not. It's about being complete, raw, messy, awake, not stuck in one emotional gear, not addicted to smiles, but capable of moving through the full emotional spectrum without losing yourself. Because when you stop resisting your own depths, you finally come home to yourself. Happiness asks, how can I feel better? Wholeness asks, what is this feeling trying to tell me? See the difference? One is escapism. The other is transformation. When you stop treating discomfort like an enemy, it stops running your life from the shadows. Jung said that true healing is not found in the light, it's found in the tension between opposites. You are not here to be one thing. You are here to become everything you are. So the next time you're tempted to chase the next high, pause. Listen. What if your pain isn't a problem, but a portal? What if happiness was never the goal at all, but just a byproduct of something far richer? Self-integration. That's the antidote. Not fake smiles. Not forced positivity. But the radical, terrifying, liberating act of being your whole self. Even the parts you were told to hide. There's a kind of silence that's not empty, but alive. You can't hear it in a crowd. You won't find it in your notifications. It waits beneath the noise of your mind, like a hidden door. Jung believed this stillness was the path to individuation, the integration of your true self. But how often do you actually sit with yourself without distraction? Can you even tell where your thoughts end and the world begins? Most people don't want peace. They want relief. A quick fix. A dopamine hit. But real contentment doesn't scream. It whispers. It lives in that uncomfortable space you try to avoid, when you put the phone down, turn the music off, and ask, what am I actually feeling? It's not glamorous. It's not always pleasant. But it's real. And in a world addicted to stimulation, stillness becomes rebellion. There's a reason so many people fear solitude. It reveals truth. Not the curated version of you, but the raw, unfiltered self beneath the layers. When you stop running, your demons show up. The ones you buried under busy. But here's the paradox. Facing them is what sets you free. Jung's process of individuation wasn't about perfection. It was about presence. Being radically honest with what is, instead of clinging to what should be. Think of the moments you felt most alive. Were they loud? Were they perfect? Or were they quiet, slow, unexpected? Maybe it was watching the rain, holding someone's gaze, sitting in the dark, fully present with your pain. Stillness isn't about doing nothing. It's about doing one thing completely. And when you do, you stop chasing a feeling and start becoming a presence. That's deeper than happiness. That's you. Modern culture trains you to be reactive. Scroll, swipe, respond, consume. But individuation, the process of becoming whole, requires a different rhythm. Slower, heavier, more intentional. Jung knew that meaning doesn't arrive when you finally get everything you want. It emerges in the silence between wants. And until you learn to sit in that space, you'll be a puppet pulled by desire, mistaking stimulation for life. So stop asking, how can I be happier? Ask instead, can I sit with myself without needing to change anything? Because stillness is not a pause between life. It is life unfiltered. Contentment isn't a destination you reach by striving. It's the state you enter when striving finally collapses. Not because you gave up, but because you finally remembered you were never lacking to begin with. What if everything you've been taught about happiness is a lie? What if the more you chase it, the further it slips away? For so long, we've been told that happiness is the goal, that it's the ultimate measure of success. But what if the real answer is in stopping the chase altogether? The pursuit of happiness, as Jung suggests, is not the solution, it's part of the problem. Chasing happiness keeps you in a cycle of desire that will never satisfy your soul. So, what does it mean to stop chasing? To stop running after external things, goals, or the approval of others? It means to turn inward, to become the architect of your own inner world, rather than a passive passenger on the roller coaster of life. The key is understanding that happiness isn't something you get. It's not a prize at the end of a race. It's a side effect of something much deeper, inner alignment. Only when you embrace this truth can you stop racing and start living. This isn't about giving up. It's about choosing to stop pretending. When you stop chasing happiness, you're not resigned to apathy or despair. You're making space for something far more profound, the peace of being. The joy that comes from being present in each moment, without the weight of future expectations dragging you down. Happiness comes when you stop expecting it to come, when you simply allow yourself to exist as you are, in the here and now. But what happens when you stop chasing happiness? For one, you start to notice the things you've been overlooking. The simple, subtle joys that are always around you, but never seem to measure up to your ideals of happiness. Maybe it's a quiet morning with a cup of coffee. Maybe it's a fleeting moment of connection with another person. Jung teaches us that real joy isn't loud or grand. It's quiet and meaningful, found in the cracks of our ordinary lives. Now, let's be clear. This isn't an excuse to settle for mediocrity or to avoid growth. It's about breaking free from the tyranny of more. The obsession with success, perfection, or even just feeling good. True fulfillment comes when you stop looking outside yourself for validation and start cultivating a deeper connection to your true self. It's only in this alignment that happiness begins to flow naturally, not because you demanded it, but because you've made room for it. So, what if the real secret to happiness isn't in chasing it at all? What if it's about living fully, deeply, and without fear of the unknown? As Jung put it, who looks outside dreams, who looks inside awakes. The question is no longer, how do I find happiness? The real question is, how can I finally stop running and begin to live in peace with who I am? If this video made you question the way you've been living, don't let that insight fade, do something with it. Subscribe now for more deep, mind-shifting content like this, and share this video with someone who's stuck chasing a happiness that never lasts. And in the comments, tell me, what have you been running after, and what is it costing you?